Just imagine if you could reintroduce yourself to a local university, or introduce yourself, and you start having the staff from that university come in when they're at lower capacity, or students that are at that university for a summer program, and they tell their friends. Well, by just the law of numbers, that's going to be growing massively when the fourth quarter comes.
Welcome to The Profitable Table, fed by Woolco Foods, a podcast at the nexus of hospitality, business, culture, and the mind. Now here's your host, Woolco Foods CEO, Stephen Toboroff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Profitable Table, fed by Woolco Foods. I am your host, Stephen Toboroff, and I want to do a podcast today that I've been thinking about for a while now, and I think is extremely important and obviously very timely. But I really think that the subject I'm going to cover today can be a real difference maker for restaurants and other businesses in the hospitality space as we head into the remainder of this year. And it's something I've thought about for a while, but I finally took the time to formalize my thinking and put it into notes and create this podcast. So what I want to talk about today is how we can use the month of August as a springboard for a phenomenal fourth quarter and ultimately into a great next year. Now, for those of us in the New York market, and I suspect this is the case in other markets as well, but it's particularly acute in New York, the month of August is very slow. The general mindset is people take vacations. People use the month of August to really just sort of wind everything down, so to speak, because it's a slow month. Generally speaking, a lot of people who live in New York, they're on vacation, they're in the Hamptons. Even with tourism, which has been somewhat dampened this year, the tourism business is not enough to replicate what New York City is like when it's really humming. And so the overall vibe for the month of August is that it's slow, you know? And as a result of that, what you'll generally see people do is they'll either take vacations themselves, they will complain, they will get worried, they will use this month in a self-destructive way rather than a constructive way. Now, me personally, I've always loved this month because nothing makes me happier. This is me. You guys can disagree with me completely if you want, and I'm totally cool with that. But I love looking on Instagram in the month of August and seeing friends and family and other business leaders taking pictures from Greece and on vacation and watching sunsets and, you know, really sort of displaying how they're spending their month in a leisurely way. And I'm not hating on anybody, but I'm just telling you from my perspective, it makes me feel enervated and excited because I always love being in a position where I'm putting in effort or strategic thinking when other people are taking it easy. I believe there's a time and a place for vacations, and for some people, it's a great thing. And I've had wonderful times with my family and when the kids were younger and stuff. But I try to structure things in my life where every day is exciting and stimulating, and I'm very much refreshed. So I don't need a break from anything. And so I see August for what it is, which is an immense opportunity for me personally, as well as for this company. And nothing reinforces that than watching conventional behavior. And it inspires me. So what that really is a reflection of me kind of reframing my thinking. Whereas when I'm driving to the gym like I did this morning, or I'm in my office, or I'm walking my dog thinking about something, or I'm in my backyard reading, I love it that in this month, the playing field is less cluttered with competitors. At least it seems to me to be. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So the first thing I would invite everybody to consider, if you're like me or what I'm saying resonates in any way, is first and foremost, as we head into August, reframe your thinking and use your brain to ask positive questions. An example of that would be to not ask questions such as, why does it have to be so slow in August? Why is it that business sucks? Why is it that my business is not aligned to do well in August? Why is it that there has to be negative growth in tourism? Any question that you're asking yourself that is not constructive, your brain will answer for you, gladly answer for you. And the more you ask those questions, the more your thinking is going to be cluttered with negative answers that don't drive you forward. I would ask different questions, and I do ask different questions. What can I do this month to set my business up for an amazing fall? What can I do personally this month to put myself in a position where I'm more energetic, more fit, more focused? What actions can I take with my staff to get them more motivated and excited? What areas of my business can I look at to improve on? What areas of my business are working that I can double down on? Your brain will answer those questions as well. So the first thing is to reframe your thinking and enter into this month with that positive, expectant, excited mindset, and prime your mind by asking the right questions. The second thing that I like about August, and I would share with people to do, is it's a great time to spend some time with yourself and think deeply about your business and about the next quarter. We've done many episodes on this podcast about the mind, and it's even in the title. And I've shared with you my love of philosophy and how that's changed my life and how it's impacted me as a business person. And, one of the things we have to recognize, it's just a basic fact, is that our mind both processes and creates reality at the same instant. It's an incredibly powerful tool, complicated tool, wonderful tool, and there's a lot there. And a lot of people, and this is okay, I was talking to, my son about this actually. Some people, one of my kids, some people are just not comfortable spending a lot of time by themselves. They like to be around other people. They don't like downtime, and that's okay. But as business people, as leaders, as people who set goals, I think it's really important to spend some time by yourself. And August can be a great time to do that. If you're in the city's quieter. If you're not in the city, it's that time of year where things, just because of the heat and the overall pace of things quiet down. So really take some time to be with yourself and let your mind just roam. I like to run, I like to lift weights, but I also like to take long walks. I like to sit quietly and think. I like to read a lot, but this mind of ours is really incredible, as I said. So take some time to think and start just letting your mind drift and just give it gentle prompts. And it can be about sales. It can be about expansion. It can be about costs. It can be about other things you want to achieve in your life. Really let your mind go in fantasy and do it in a relaxed way and just let it go. I would also suggest after you do that there are times when you sit down and after you've given yourself some time to be expansive in your thinking, articulate some goals that you have for the fourth quarter and write them down. Because things are a little slower now, a little quieter, the overall pace around us slows down, it's a great time to really start casting our thoughts into the future in terms of what we want to accomplish the next quarter and into next year. In the New York City market, there's a lot of things that will be happening next year that are going to be very exciting, I believe. The World Cup, especially the finals, which are going to be played in the MetLife Stadium, the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. I think there's a reasonably good probability that interest rates will be cut and the dollar will continue to weaken. And I think there's a reasonably good probability that at some point the dam is going to break and tourists from Asia and Europe are just going to be so tempted by the weak dollar that they're going to come to New York City in a way that makes up for perhaps the slight diminution that's occurred this year. So what I like to do every quarter, and I would encourage people who have never done it before, start in August, is take some time and write down 3 or 4 business goals that you'd like to achieve over the next 4 months. And write down 3 or 4 personal goals that you'd like to achieve. My personal goals is, I'll tell you what theirs is. One of them is to work out 5 days a week minimum. One of them is to get below 190 pounds. One of them is to read 5 books minimum over the next 3 months. And so on and so on. Those are personal goals, and you can set, your own goals for yourself. And it's a great time to do it and write it down. There's something powerful about writing things down and putting it somewhere. And then the final thing is as things slow down, and this is sort of tied into the first, but one of the things I've really learned, thank God is, I don't drink. I really don't do a lot other than sort of work, exercise, read, listen to podcasts, try to self-develop and spend time with my family and my dog. Not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody should do that, and I get it. But if you are someone who's been looking at your life and you're saying, I really would like to learn more about anything, like to learn more about the restaurant business. I'd like to learn more about accounting. I'd like to learn more about painting. I'd like to learn more about Russian literature, whatever it is. Now's a great time to really embrace that and begin doing it. And for those of you that have been toying with, exercising a little more, again, the summer months, one of the things that is great is motivation. I don't believe in motivation as something you have to rely on to do what you're supposed to do. But I do believe motivation is great once you've made a commitment to do something. So if you make a commitment to say, look, I'm going to get into shape. I'm going to start walking an hour a day. I'm going to lift weights 3 days a week, whatever it is for you, wherever you are in the journey. Nothing's going to be more motivating than when you're up doing your workout and you do your Instagram scroll and you see your friends or your family or colleagues taking a photo from some bar doing shots, or indulging in some huge meal at a sunset, and you're there grinding, working. It just feels great. So I think August is a great time to do that, okay? Once we've done that, we've sort of taken a step back, we've looked at ourselves, blah, blah, blah. Very important foundation. Now the next thing is to take action. And the first thing I would suggest doing, and this is what I'm doing at Woolco for sure, is have meaningful and expansive discussions with your staff and plumb them for ideas. In the same way that the summer slowness can infect your thinking and think that everyone else is sort of like, oh, it's slow, there's not much to do, let's sort of give 50, 60%. That's happening with your staff, your team to a large degree as well. So my suggestion would be to go to them and say, hey, let's have a meeting once a week and talk about some ideas that we may want to implement in the fall for menu. Or sit down and talk to them about the ambiance or anything that's important to your business. Incorporate your staff at this moment in time for more expansive and high-level discussions. One, the time of year is conducive to this because hopefully you're going to be so busy when the fall comes and the holiday season that you won't have time to do it. And two, by doing this, you'll be inserting into the dynamic, which, as we already stated before, is slow and somewhat unsatisfying. You'll be infusing something interesting and dynamic into it, and you'll get people excited so that you'll not only get the benefit of perhaps some phenomenal ideas that you can use in your business and have a great fourth quarter as a result of that, but you'll stimulate and enervate your team. And that's always a positive thing, keeping people engaged, because you don't want them just lagging, In the same way you're doing that with your staff, I would suggest now is a great time for those of you that have regulars, for those of you that have hospitality businesses that cater to residents of the city, in my case, and it can be whatever city you're in, that you use this month to really do something special for them and engage with them. It could be having a regulars watch party night for a television show that people like. It could be one night a week where you offer specials, or you let, when your regulars are there, hey, come in on Wednesday, we're doing one appetizer for the table night. I don't know. Whatever the ideas are, use the month of August to, again, do something exciting, fresh, new, and engaging for your regulars. Don't just mindlessly fall into the entropy of it's August, it's slow, let's just make it through. Take a different approach. Say, it's August, it's slow, this is awesome, because I'm going to use it to energize my staff, and I'm going to use it to strengthen my relationship with my regulars. And you can also use it as a time to utilize your regulars to invite in people who have never come to your restaurant before. Depending on the relationship you have with them, you could say, listen, John, I notice you come here 2-3 times a month. If you could bring in any of your friends that have never tried it, I'm going to get you guys appetizers or the first round of drinks on the house. Be creative in this month because other people are looking for things to stimulate them. Not everybody likes being in the city in the summer. Not everybody likes having to to work in the summer just because I do. And just because some of you do doesn't mean everybody does. So you'll be giving them a phenomenal opportunity to do something exciting and liven up their lives at a time when they might be feeling a little down or just out of it. The third is now is a great time to use social media to get on the radar of locals and tourists. It's also a great time to use social media to learn more about what your competitors are doing, to learn more about your marketplace, and to use social media tools in a much more impactful way than you might be using them. One of the ways to do that is to simply make posts about what you're doing that communicate to the marketplace that August in your restaurant, in your bar, in your cafe is a phenomenal time to stop in, and it's an exciting time. And it depends on who you want to target. If you're a restaurant on the Upper West Side, I think the odds of people that are stuck, here's an interesting thought. I have no idea if this is true or not, but it would make sense to me. If people are in the city, they may want to do something that feels like a bit of a vacation or something new. So if you're on the Upper West Side and most of your customers are from the Upper West Side, or if you're in the theater district and most of your customers are in the theater district, why not try to use social media and other outreach to draw in people from other neighborhoods, from Brooklyn, from somewhere else, so that you're introducing them to your restaurant at a time when you can give them a greater level of attention and service. And here's the beautiful thing, and this is what I tell my sales team in my business. One of the things we really are focusing on right now, and we're having a lot of success, is because things are slow, it's a great time for us to go to our customers and say, listen, John, we appreciate that things are slow. I noticed you're not buying any dairy or produce from us. Let me give you some pricing on these items because I'm very confident I can save you some money. And more than that, love to learn more about how we can, sort of create value for you. Well, people are going to be giving you their attention. And if we successfully upsell people products they're not buying through creating value for them, then just based upon the normal course of seasonality, they're going to be buying more of those products as we go into the fourth quarter, and it creates a virtuous cycle. Same thing with you. If you can get engagement, another place that I think is an absolutely phenomenal place to target in the summer is if you have a restaurant and you're in an area where there's office workers or businesses, and you can target them and you can get that thing going in a way where people have been introduced to your restaurant in the month of August and they love it, it'll be memorable. And these will all be force multipliers as you go into the fall. So the main thing is to use that. And then the final thing is from a financial standpoint, if you have savings and you have capital, it's a great time to look at your financial situation now and just make sure that that's in order. I think as business leaders, we're looking at our business a lot, but I also think that hopefully people have some savings, they have some capital. It's a great time to look at that, refresh it, educate yourself on what's going on in the world, educate yourself on opportunities. And if you have, financial advisors or people you work with, sometimes it's easier to have meaningful conversations with them. The point of that, as with all of these other suggestions, which are just suggestions, of course, is that we turn a month that people write off into something that's really a spectacular, fire-powered catalyst to get us into the new year, into the next quarter, and into the next goal. And, finally, I would say, what are the results that you'd want to expect from this? What would you like to see if you take my suggestions? Well, the first would be, I think, you're going to use your time in a more deliberate and constructive manner rather than just going with the flow. There's times when we can go with the flow, like when everything is really busy and hectic and dynamic. Yeah, we can go with that flow. Keeps us sharp. We want to make the most of it. But when the flow is contrary to our ultimate goal of maximizing success in our business or maximizing self-awareness, maximizing fitness, maximizing our knowledge, then we don't want to go with the flow. So if you use these suggestions, it will lead to a more deliberate and constructive use of your time and your mind. And there's nothing better than that. It'll lead to an enhanced quality of life and performance 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months from now. If you use this month of August and sort of reframe your thinking to ask better questions, or use this month of August to really have more meaningful and in-depth and multidimensional conversations with your senior leadership or your team, Well, that doesn't just stop. That changes a dynamic, and that change will reap benefits into the future, and it'll be utilizing the time because, again, you might not have time. There may not be the inclination to have deep, multi-level discussions with your team in November or October or December. But now the time is. Have everybody sit around, talk, let people brainstorm, let people think, let them talk. Well, you might find yourself in a very different position. Financially, you can have much better results in the fourth quarter if you utilize these strategies. I can tell you my goal. My goal is to have a fourth quarter that blows away last year's fourth quarter. And what I tell my team, now my business is different, but when things are slow, and even if there's macro headwinds, that's boom time for us because one, when things are slow, it's easier to get new prospects' attention. Those prospects that my sales team interacts with in the month of August, they're serious about their business. They want to succeed. They're there, and they're going to have more time to talk with me. Those existing customers of ours that we sit down with, have meaningful discussions with, learn as much as we can about how we can create more value for them in whatever way. Menu planning, saving them money on items they're not buying, etc. Well, those are going to lead to better results in the fourth quarter because one, when you onboard new customers, just as if you bring in new regulars to your restaurant or new people who've never tried it, or you introduce yourself to a business or a hospital or a major university near you, whatever, well, those results are only going to amplify come the fourth quarter. Just imagine if you could reintroduce yourself to a local university or introduce yourself and you start having the staff from that university come in when they're at lower capacity, or students that are at that university for a summer program and they tell their friends. Well, by just the law of numbers, that's going to be growing massively when the fourth quarter comes. And then finally, and most importantly, a better mindset for yourself. You know, the most important lesson that I've learned over the past few years has had to do with thinking and utilization of the mind and understanding it more. And I'm 54 years old, and I've been doing a lot of reading, and I'm well educated and all of that stuff. And I can say that it wasn't until probably 3 years ago that I finally started to really have a much deeper and more empowering understanding of the mind, thinking, and how it relates to business and how it relates to life. And some of the most important concepts of that, which I'm going to share right now, and I already did, is one, asking questions, right? Because your mind is a guided missile. You ask it a question, it'll come with an answer. Two, I would recommend people read things such as works of philosophy or other things that raise self-awareness. But here's the most important thing for people that are suffering with anxiety or other problems. You have to understand one thing. When you're having a negative thought, I'm not talking about that's a direct reaction to something happening in life at that moment, but I'm just talking about if you find yourself sitting around feeling anxious or feeling sad or frustrated, you have to understand that you are the one that is creating that thought. There's not a third party that's shoving some immutable metal plate into your head, forcing your brain to generate thoughts that are upsetting to you. You are doing that, consciously or subconsciously. It seems like a very simple insight, but you'll be shocked at how many people don't understand that. When somebody says, well, I'm anxious, and I had to deal with this with a friend, I said, okay, I appreciate that, and I understand you are, and I can relate to that. But let me ask you something. That's you creating those thoughts, and you have to start challenging those thoughts and take a more active role in what you're thinking. Because you can change it. You can think different thoughts. Well, instead of just limiting that to anxiety, how about that in any part of our life? If you're walking around thinking, I have this phenomenal idea and I have this bakery, but I really think that these baked goods should be sold all over the world. But then you immediately come in and limit yourself, but that's not realistic, or that would take too much money, or no one in my life or my family ever had a booming business. Well, you're creating those thoughts, and they're not in alignment with the other part of you that wants to achieve it. So first, be mindful, and second of all, you are the author of your thinking. Therefore, there's no living thing on this earth that I'm aware of that deliberately seeks to sabotage and destroy itself in the way that humans do with inappropriate thinking. I'm not talking about when shit happens in life that's traumatic and we have to deal with it. I get that. And even that's susceptible to this, but let's just table that for a moment. Put that to the side. If you're going around thinking negative thoughts about yourself, your business, things in your life, the first thing you need to do is be aware of it. The second thing I would invite you to consider is challenging it. The third thing I would invite you to do is replacing those thoughts and see how things change for you. See how you feel energy-wise, see how you feel relationship-wise, and then ultimately see how you look business-wise. Okay? A lot of things we can't control in life. Most things are out of our control. But thank God, one thing we can have an enormous impact on is our thinking. And if you can use the month of August to explore that, I think it'll be an extraordinarily effective month. So this was kind of a personal episode, but I really wanted to share it because, quite frankly, this is how I'm walking around. I'm telling you, I'm scrolling my Instagram looking for people taking pictures from the south of France, looking for people taking pictures of their dinner or something else to convey that they're on vacation. Now, why does that fire me up? I don't know. We don't have to go too deeply into it. It's enough to go and stay surface here that I think it leads me in a very constructive manner. And I like it. And I like it when the playing field is cleared of competitors. And I'm going to invite you to consider that you should like it as well. So I hope that this podcast was enjoyable. If it was, would love it if you would share it with other people. If you enjoyed the content, please like, please subscribe, please comment. If you agree or disagree with anything I said, I love to hear people's comments and thoughts. I love to hear people who agree and people who disagree. And I learn. I'm open-minded. So I'd love to hear people's sort of their own thoughts on what I'm saying and what they do in the month of August and their approach to these things. So you can always reach out to me by DMing me at Woolco Foods on Instagram, or you can email me directly at steven@woolcofoods.com, steven@woolcofoods.com, and I always love hearing from people. And other than that, I just want to wish everybody to have an awesome, awesome day.
Thank you for listening to The Profitable Table, fed by Woolco Foods. Please be sure to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. And to learn more about Woolco Foods or Stephen Toboroff, please visit us at woolcofoods.net.